If you perform any type of B2B cold outreach, B2B cold calling, you are going to have a lot of your calls being answered by gatekeepers. And gatekeepers can often be difficult to deal with and difficult to get around. But in this video, I'm going to give you 3 very practical and easy to implement tactics that will give you something to say to gatekeepers that will improve your odds of keeping the conversation going and getting around them. And so when you end up on the phone with a gatekeeper and it seems like they're starting to be difficult, this can often be the case for a couple different reasons. First of all, you might be talking to a gatekeeper that is in the mode of blocking out all salespeople. With these gatekeepers, most likely there's nothing you can say, and it doesn't matter what you sell. They are going to do everything they can to block you out and keep you from getting through and talking to the person that you're trying to reach. But there could be another scenario where the gatekeeper that you're talking to genuinely thinks that they do not need what you sell, or they already have what you sell, or they might not understand what it is the company you work for sells and does. Or they genuinely think that letting you through might waste the time of the person they connect you with. Or they might genuinely not know who to connect you to and who you should talk to. And with these gatekeepers, what we can do is we can take a step back and try to educate the gatekeeper on who we are, why we're calling, and why it would make sense for the person we're trying to reach to spend their valuable time talking with us. And you might think, well, that makes sense, but it might be difficult to educate the gatekeeper on all of that in just a short conversation over the phone. And the good thing here with our approach is that we can actually use the building blocks that we've already created, specifically our value points, our pain points, and our customer examples to do this. So the scenario is we're calling a target prospect, talking to the gatekeeper, and they're being a little difficult or they're not sending us through. So if that's the case, what we can do is we can use our value points building block by saying something like, actually, let me take a step back and let you know why I'm calling. The reason for my call is that we help businesses to get their reps generating more leads and decrease sales staff turnover. I don't know if you all want to improve those areas or not. Do you know who the best person for me to talk with is? So what you're doing here is educating the gatekeeper on the value you have to offer. And you can also use your pain points to educate the gatekeeper in the exact same way. You're just coming at it from the other direction by talking about the problems that you help to solve. Actually, let me take a step back real quick and let you know why I'm calling. Businesses that we work with often have the challenges that their sales reps are not generating enough leads and they have too many underperforming sales reps on the team. I don't know if you guys are concerned about those areas or not, and that's why I'm calling. Do you know who the best person for me to connect with is? And you could use an example of another customer in the exact same way. Actually, let me take a step back and let you know why I'm calling. We recently worked with Strike Tech and their reps weren't generating enough leads. We helped to solve this problem by optimizing what their reps were saying and asking. This improved the performance for every rep on the team. Now, I don't know if we can help you guys in that same way, and that's why I was calling. Do you know who the best person for me to connect with is? Now, when you use these responses, I'm not going to say that the gatekeeper is going to drop their guardedness 100% and send you through, but it gives you something more powerful to say, something that is optimized according to what it is that you sell, and it increases the odds of you communicating in a way with the gatekeeper to where they're more likely to help you or let you through. And the second tactic for dealing with and getting around gatekeepers is to treat the gatekeeper like they are the target prospect. And so if you're dealing with a gatekeeper that's being extremely difficult, maybe they seem like they are the type of gatekeeper that's just going to block out all salespeople regardless of what they sell, and that they're not going to let you through, that's a good time to shift gears and just start to treat the gatekeeper like they are the prospect that you're trying to talk to. And so for these responses, we can also use our building blocks that we've already created and use the building blocks of pain questions and current state questions, because those are the questions that we would want to ask the prospect that we're trying to get to. And that might look something like this. The gatekeeper's blocking you out. You can reply to them by saying something like, okay, well, maybe you might be able to answer this. How do you guys feel about the amount of leads your reps are currently generating? Or how important is it for you guys to decrease sales staff turnover? Now, when you say this, it does a few different things. First of all, it gives you something to say, and instead of going back and forth with the difficult gatekeeper that's blocking you out. But another thing that this might do is that some gatekeepers have knowledge of the organization and knowledge of what's going on, especially when you deal with gatekeepers that are in the role of executive assistants to a department or to a senior level manager. They're going to have a lot of knowledge, and they might be able to provide you with valuable information. So you could just start asking them your questions and get the information that you're hoping to get from the target prospect. But another very likely scenario is that you ask this question to the gatekeeper and they don't know the answer to your question. And what you've done there is you've created a reason for them to send you through to the target prospect, and you can explain that by saying something like, oh, I see. Well, that's why it would make sense for me to talk with Mrs. Jones, because she would likely have that information and know the answer to that question. What's the best way for me to get connected with her? And you can also use your current state questions in the exact same way. And the third tactic for dealing with and getting around gatekeepers is to have responses to the objections that you can anticipate gatekeepers giving you. And here's a list of 7 objections that gatekeepers will use again and again. What is this in regards to? Is this a sales call? And then you can often have gatekeepers who tell you that they're not interested. We're not making any changes right now. We already use someone for that. We do not need that right now. Can you just send me your information and I'll pass it along? Now, these are the objections that are going to come up again and again, and it's a fairly short list, only 7 here that you can benefit from stopping and thinking about ahead of time, and maybe having responses for these, which will not only improve your odds of getting around these, but if you have responses for these, that's going to greatly decrease the level of anxiety you feel when these come up again and again, and when you're on the phone with gatekeepers that are being very difficult and blocking you out. Now, you might look at this list and say, well, it makes sense to have responses for these, but I don't know how to respond to these. Well, the good news is that the same building blocks we've already created and been using again and again, we can use as responses to these objections. If you face the what is this in regards to, or is this a sales call objections, these are actually different questions, but you can respond to these in actually the exact same way by responding with your value points by saying something like, well, the reason for the call is we help businesses to get their reps generating more leads, we improve the performance for every rep on the team, and we help to decrease sales staff turnover. And what you're doing there is a pretty powerful thing, because you're throwing a curveball at the gatekeeper. Because what the gatekeeper is doing is they're asking this question and they're expecting an answer like, I'm calling to introduce our company, I'm calling to schedule a meeting, I'm calling to see if you guys need product X. And when they hear that, they know you're a salesperson. When you say something like this, you sound more like a consultant or a business person or a representative of a company, more so than a salesperson who's trying to sell something. And that gives the gatekeeper a little less of a green light to feel like it's okay and mandatory that they get rid of you. So it's a little bit of a curveball. We'll buy you some more time, and then maybe the gatekeeper might respond with a different question or objection, or they might send you through or have a little more understanding of who it would make sense for you to talk to. And if you get any of the objections of we're not interested, not making any changes, we already use someone, we don't need that right now, you can respond to those with your pain questions by saying something like, oh, I understand. If I could ask you real quick, how do you feel about the amount of leads your reps are generating? And so this is similar to treating the gatekeeper like the prospect. At this point, you're keeping the conversation going. You might learn a little bit more about what's going on. You might create a justification for the gatekeeper to send you through. You could also respond to those exact same objections in the exact same with your current state questions. You could respond to those exact same objections with your pain points coming at it from the other side by saying something like, oh, I understand. Businesses that we work with often have challenges in the areas of their reps aren't generating enough leads. They have too many underperforming sales reps. Are you all concerned about those challenges? And another very common objection for gatekeepers and prospects also is asking the salesperson to send over their information. Gatekeepers love this one because it's very effective at getting rid of salespeople, because you're giving the salesperson a little bit of hope and feeling like there might be a chance, but there really isn't, because after the salesperson puts together a beautiful email with their information, it usually gets instantly deleted by the gatekeeper. So the worst way to respond to this objection is by saying, oh, okay, yeah, I'll send that over. What's your email address? So instead, what you want to do is you want to have some sort of response for when the gatekeeper says, send me your information. And what you can do is you can deflect that objection with your pain questions by saying something like, sure, I can certainly do that. So I know what best to send you. Could I ask you real quick? And then you ask a pain question like, if I could ask you real quick, how do you all feel about the amount of time it takes to get sales reps ramped up and producing? And so what this response does is it gets you away from the gatekeeper's tactic of trying to get you to send them information and takes the conversation in another direction. And this could lead in the same direction as some of the other objection responses, where you might learn a little bit or you might create a justification for talking to the target prospect and get away from the request of sending over your information. And you could also respond to that same objection with the exact same type of response, but with your current state questions. So hopefully you can see how those three tactics can be used to greatly improve how you communicate and interact with gatekeepers and increase the odds of you getting around them, or at least you extracting valuable information from them when you're interacting with them. And as you can see, it is a lot easier to implement those tactics if you've created your building blocks and your sales message. And as you may know by now, we have a step-by-step process you can go through to create your sales message and create an optimum set of things to say and ask for the product or service that you sell. Here's an example of going through our step-by-step sales message brainstorming process for a particular product or service. And each of these sets of bullet points is a building block, and these could then be used as your objection responses and as your things to say to the gatekeeper when you're getting blocked out. Now, you might look at this and think a couple things. You might think, I don't know if I can go through these steps successfully and create all of these different points. Or you might look at this and think, I don't have the time or energy to go through and create this. And that is how our software of Sales Scripter can help you, in that Sales Scripter has an area called the Sales Message Builder that takes you through our step-by-step process to create an optimum sales message for your product or service, identifying the value you have to offer, the pain points you help to solve, the questions you should be asking. And the really cool thing is that you could go through this and answer these questions on your own, but we actually have AI features that allow you to go through this process in a matter of seconds using AI to create the first version of your sales message. And to show you what this looks like, all you have to do is insert the product or service that you sell, the company you work for, and then you can specify the target audience for the sales message that you're creating. And then if I click start, what is going to happen is that Sales Scripter is going to talk with ChatGPT and go through all of the different steps of our sales message brainstorming process and have ChatGPT do the copywriting for the first version of your sales message, creating a list of features, differentiation, value points, pain questions, and current state questions. All of these steps and these sets of bullet points are your building blocks. And then Sales Scripter provides you with a sales playbook, which is a library of documents that then mix and match your building blocks to provide you with a whole set of cold call scripts. And these cold call scripts We'll use your building blocks to create objection responses for all of those gatekeeper objections that we discussed. What is this in regards to? Is this a sales call? We're not interested right now. Just send me your information. And that is pretty much it. In our next module, we will talk about qualifying and how to properly screen and vet the prospects that you're talking to. If you have any questions or want more information, the best place to go is salesscripter.com. Thanks for being here. Hope this was helpful, and we look forward to seeing you on the next video. Have a great day. Take care. Bye.